So recently I started a small project in Clojure. I just wanted to test out few things. So let's run this jar file and yes. So we do get all the entries that we can get from this by running this jar. I will go over the program in a bit. So basically these are the posts that are showing on Hacker News, or maybe could be any site, right? So yes, I just don't wanted to see the duplicates, and within the data we have title, href, and created ad date. And let's see how it kind of works. It's kind of like super easy. Anyone who has done like small work in web scraping, it will be like super easy. But let's see what I'm doing in Clojure. So let's get rid of these comments, and this is our entry point, and this is our main function, and we don't need to call that. So I'm calling crawl method on news. And what is news? Let's go to URLs, and it's a structure with the domain name, and we have navigation arguments query, and in arguments the first is like query string, and next is page number, where we're going to we provide the range like from 2 to 10, and it will be like first of all, let's say in this example, and why not, I will not explain in text, we will just run a few functions, right? So I basically define this structure. Now what I can do, I can simply add new data, like new entries. Then there is also added a callback, and we'll see in short what it does. And so let's go back, crawl, get in map query. So it's basically getting the query map from news, and since we are calling map, so we get this. What next, we generate URLs from that entry, and let's go ahead and do that. I will go back, REPL, let's see our news, and we do get news, and let's call first, and we do get entries. And if I call map p on news, it's just like calling first on news but for each entry, and as you can see, this is basically the same result. So we will use the first entry from map, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna test out our generate URLs. So let's test out generate URLs. In generate URLs, what it does, first of all, it builds where we are URLs. So we build the domain name from index, and if you call name on keyword, you basically get the string value, so name test, and you get test back. Then we build a query URL, which is like which is for, in our case, it's like saying first build the domain name, then append the query, which is like news / news. So let's get into the gen news. So we use destructuring a lot, and it's kind of, it depends, but if we simply use this data entry data structure, not data structure, I would say more like in most of the cases where I simply pass this the entire first entry, because I think it was super easy for me to test, as you can see in other areas as well. And that would be get in entry. Where else I used body? I think in URLs I used it mostly as entry, because let's say I want to see how the query URL gonna work, query URL gonna look, and I can simply call this with the entry. I think yeah, we will not be able to call it in here because we haven't imported it right there, so it will be not available and mostly undefined, as you can see. So that way I could simply test out all the methods and destructure values that as I needed. So yeah, I mean, do I wanted to improve it? I think if we have like a lot of other methods, I would still keep it as entry, and I think it gives me like super easy access to test it out. Like I simply just pass the first row from first item from this map, and I can simply test it out like super easy. So let's see. So next thing in news, in this section I have callback. So it's basically for building a custom query. For example, if null query entry. So in case we have like different requirement for some website, I'm planning to extend it, so I'll add more entries, and eventually the entire thing will grow. And so for pagination, I'm simply calling a range function, start end, and you can see it will generate a range from start, let's say from, if we want to start 2 and end at 10, it will generate us 2 to 10 count list. It will generate a list of 2 to 10, and we simply loop over it for, and then we use as page. This also gets passed to the callback, and the first so in callback this %1 means it's a query string, and %2 means it's a page. So if I have like 3 argument, I could do 3. Yes, let's comment it out. And for querying, we will go over what packages I'm using. And for query, I simply define a root node and test node. I think this section is pretty much done, so let's get into request section. So I'm using nlive and HTTP client library. So first I created a single request method where we pass URL to client.get. I noticed that I should be like managing errors properly in here, and if there is no like data, or maybe there is some exception, I could simply return the error. I think that it's like to do now. Next thing, we simply get the body from that request, and nlive uses this HTML snippet thing to make it queryable. I'm not sure if it's required, but I think I kind of tried it, but like this kind of works. Next thing, I also like implemented a grab function where it simply Select uses HTML select. It's from inlive, and it will select the content based on the query, and queries are defined here for root query, for title. And one cool thing I noticed, like, so I will be like sending requests in bulk, so I can simply use pmap instead on request, and I don't have to like come up with a custom for loop or anything like that. I simply just call pmap on each item and I kind of request it. But the issue will be like when I want to know what, like, which request failed, and do we want to redo it, and yeah, then I think it will be like, yeah, I think then it will like little bit of code, little bit of more code. Yeah, I think for now it just works fine. And let's go to info section. This is where we extract the information, and so we are using map and extract title. One thing I noticed with the Clojure, you have to define a function, like we are using extract title in the next function. We can't define it after extract. It does not work. I think it's kind of like it should be. I don't see any reason it should be required that way, but still, I think, yeah, could be. I don't know. So what I do now is we simply grab the anchor tag, then extract the information, then we simply pass that to map, and in core we think yes, this is the section where we request run. So we got the URLs. Now I'm simply requesting it multiple times, like requesting all the URLs at once, so in parallel, without doing much. And then I simply info extract query. So query is yes, so this is like the entire thing, this entire thing. And extract once like all the information, we get all the information, then I kind of like take it as rows and attach a timestamp. After that we basically write to storage, and let's get to storage. So it takes in database name and the items you want to write, and how it works. Let's see. Read database, it simply just read the entire thing and read it as a hidden file, as a array, or maybe I would say list, because yeah, it's a list. Then what it does, rows, mostly unique rows. So we check whether the href is in the current database, and I think we should have used something like MySQL or SQLite, but I think for this simple thing, I think plain text just works fine, because I just don't want it to bother with the like inserting the data and adding timestamps and stuff like that. I simply just throw the list at file, they'll read it, and unique rows, we simply check whether the href exists in rows. If no, then we simply filter out the rows. Then if we have like empty rows, we simply don't write anything and we return null. And after that, write db, and what it does, where is, yeah, so it simply just uses the split function and data. I'm curious why we use apply list on data. yes, I think we are doing because some of the result were lazy, but I don't think we need this now. But we will see if that's the case. So concat database. So concat is like pre-append the items in list. So yes, yeah, this is like, yeah, kind of pre-append. I think after using Clojure, and I have also like done similar scrapping projects in Go. I think the code is a lot shorter, like it's super concise. But I would not say that for logic you also have to like think as much as you would in Go or any other programming language. But once you like write your program, you basically use the most of the built-in functions that Clojure provides. And what I also noticed that let's say this section, when I created it in Clojure, this section I kind of like just, I was thinking how I'm gonna update it. I just throw a single line and it now all the rows are updating. And let's imagine this for Golang. You would probably want to create a method, some sort of like attach rows and call that method, or maybe create a loop. Instead here we just simply like call map. Now one issue with that approach would be, I think, let's say like for this example, and I think performance wise I'm not sure, but yeah, like once I use more Clojure I will understand about it more, and I'm pretty sure it's not gonna like perform really that bad because Clojure is designed that way. But yeah, for example, if you just simply update the title without copying or anything, it's gonna be fast. There's no issue, there's no debate. But how fast, or maybe I don't know, like you can only compare once the system gets large enough, and even then still it's hard to say anything for sure. And I haven't like used Clojure that much, so but I can definitely see this as being useful, this pattern as useful, like where you don't manually mutate everything and simply insert the one more statement, get one more expression and update this entire thing. I think it's kind of like, I'm not sure, like I'm super, it's super still, I would say I'm still new to Clojure to say anything, but this kind of like thing just awesome. Also I think most of the power I think most of the power in Clojure comes with their built-in functions. Like every time I have some issue, there is a built-in function, or maybe the built-in functions are flexible enough, right? So I was thinking like how I'm going to handle that index when I'm going to map over. Let's say I map over this P for print and news, right? So I was thinking how will I get the index as a separate parameter, but no, you get this entire thing as one parameter. And this also works in the same way like in first, so it's kind of like consistent all over the language. And this first function you simply can call on on vector on list. I think it's kind of like small set of functions you can call it on all the like data structures that are inside the language. And yeah, I mean it's kind of like different system. But what I noticed that let do I have example for Golang project? Yeah, I think it's on GitHub, right? Let's check it up. And I'm pretty sure that video gonna be a bit long. Repository. Let's go to source. Trending repos. So this is like the similar concept, and I simply grab the trending repos. Let's see main.co file. It's simply URLs. I think this method alone is large enough. So I would say 30, let's say 25, max 100, right? We can see like we have like max 100 lines of code. And it's already 100 is already crossed in here. And this is just a root method where we just call the entire db thing and the db method lang. So we have like multiple. So reads the JSON unmarshal, return write file, right? So this language, so I don't think it's a right comparison for Clojure to compare with Go, because they both are very different languages and I would simply not compare it. But still, I mean, if you are just looking for something fun, I would really suggest Clojure. Or maybe I think overall freedom comes after you like write your program. Now after programming in Clojure, now I simply like understand few points which he pointed in his talks, like where he said like I want some set of data and some set of like functions, and we can call on that. And also he's talked about where he could extend the system after it's built. And yeah, I mean, still it's super early to say for me to say anything. Yeah, but still I think it's overall a super awesome experience using Clojure. I would highly definitely recommend using it, maybe for your hobby projects. I think it's super awesome language as of now. One thing I noticed with Clojure is error messages. I mean, it has gotten a lot better. Like back then it was super bad, but now the issue with the error message is that you get stack trace, but let's say for example I make sometimes in Clojure, if you make a mistake, I maybe some exception, simply don't get where the exception happened. For example, let's say I am trying to do something in here and our entire program blow ups at line number 60. I don't have that information sometimes when I would say I don't know if I could find that information from log files, but I like tried to read them, but I was unable to get the exact location. I think it happens sometimes, but not all. Like for few errors it happens, and that could be like really challenging to debug. But I think overall it's a really awesome language for kind of fun. Yeah, that's about it. I think the video is already too long.